Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Grab your snacks, get comfortable. The people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. You're going to love it here. My name is Harold Bennett, and I invested $900,000 to help my son open his own medical clinic. I found out the grand opening had already happened 6 weeks earlier, and I hadn't been invited. What I discovered after that changed how I understood my own daughter-in-law entirely. My son Kobe went to medical school on loans, scholarships, and sheer stubbornness. When he finished his residency and told me he wanted to open a family practice in his own name instead of joining someone else's group, I didn't hesitate. I'd spent 30 years running a successful auto parts distribution business, and I had the money sitting there, waiting for exactly this kind of purpose. I wired the first $300,000 for the lease and build-out 18 months ago. The rest came in stages as construction progressed. Equipment, staffing, licensing. $900,000 total over the better part of a year. Kobe's wife, Melissa, handled most of the financial coordination with the contractors and vendors. She was organized, professional, always quick with updates whenever I asked how things were progressing. Except the updates had gotten vaguer over the last 2 months. Almost there. A few more inspections. We'll set a date soon. I chalked it up to the ordinary chaos of opening a business. And then, 6 weeks ago, Melissa called me on a Tuesday afternoon, and the conversation went somewhere I never expected. "I wanted to let you know," she said, her tone strangely formal, "that the opening happened. It was 6 weeks ago. We only invited close family and friends." I sat with the phone against my ear for a long moment, trying to process what I'd just heard. "I'm sorry," I said. "I think I misheard you. The opening already happened 6 weeks ago?" "It was a small event," Melissa said. "Just immediate family, really. We didn't want to make it a big production." "Melissa," I said slowly, "I put $900,000 into that clinic. I think I qualify as immediate family for the purposes of an opening." "It was 6 weeks ago," she repeated, as if the passage of time itself was the actual explanation. "It's done now. There's not really anything to see." I hung up feeling like something had been quietly taken from me. Not the money, exactly, but the moment. Watching my son cut a ribbon on something I'd helped make real, that moment was gone, and no one had thought to tell me it was happening until it was already over. A few days later, Melissa called again, and this time her tone had shifted entirely. "Harold, I need to talk to you about the clinic finances. The bills are overdue. Some of the vendor payments haven't gone through, and if we don't get an infusion soon, we could lose 2 of our contracted specialists." "Overdue how much?" I asked. "It's complicated. There's overhead we didn't fully anticipate." "Melissa," I said carefully, "did you send the money I wired last month? The $200,000 for equipment and staffing?" There was a pause, just slightly too long to be comfortable. "Some of it went toward equipment. Some of it covered other operational needs." I smiled and said, "Okay," and hung up the phone, and I want you to understand that okay was not agreement. It was the sound of a man who has run a business for 30 years, recognizing immediately the specific shape of a story that doesn't add up. I called my accountant that afternoon, a sharp, unflappable woman named Louise Faraday, who'd handled my books for 2 decades. "I need you to help me trace every dollar I've wired to Kobe's clinic over the last 18 months, I told her, discreetly. It took Louise 9 days to build a full picture, working through wire transfer records, public business filings, and a contact she had at the clinic's bank. What she found didn't match anything Melissa had told me. The clinic had, in fact, opened successfully 6 weeks earlier, fully staffed, fully equipped, and profitable within its first month. There were no overdue vendor payments. There was no financial crisis. What there was, instead, was a second business entity, a wellness consulting company registered solely in Melissa's name, opened 4 months before the clinic itself, receiving regular transfers from the clinic's operating account. Nearly $140,000 of my investment had been quietly rerouted into Melissa's separate company over the past several months, disguised as consulting fees and administrative services that, as far as Louise could determine, involved no actual services being rendered. I sat with that information for 2 full days before deciding what to do with it. I needed to understand whether Kobe knew, whether this was a shared decision, or whether my son was being kept in the dark the same way I had been. I drove to the clinic unannounced on a Thursday afternoon, told the receptionist I was there to see my son, and waited in the small lobby I'd helped fund but never once been shown. It was beautiful. Clean, modern, exactly the kind of practice Kobe had described in every conversation we'd had about his dream for the last 3 years. Patients moved through the waiting area steadily. It was clearly thriving. Kobe came out to greet me himself, and the look on his face when he saw me told me immediately he had no idea I'd never been formally invited. "Dad, I didn't know you were stopping by. Let me show you around. This is..." "Kobe," I said, "when was the opening?" "Oh," he paused. "About 6 weeks ago. Melissa said she'd sent you an invitation. Did it not go through? I remember specifically asking her to make sure you were on the list." I watched my son's face slowly understand what I already knew. "She told me you were invited," he said quietly. "She told me you said you were too busy to make it, that you'd stop by another time." I hadn't received an invitation. I hadn't said I was too busy. Melissa had apparently invented an entire version of events to explain my absence to Kobe, while telling me an entirely different story to explain the delay in acknowledging it. I sat down with Kobe in his office and told him everything: the financial discrepancies Louise had found, the separate company in Melissa's name, the money being quietly redirected. I watched my son's face go through something I recognized because I'd felt it myself just days earlier, the specific vertigo of realizing you don't fully know someone you thought you knew completely. "I need to see the records myself," Kobe said finally, his voice tight. "Before anything else happens, I need to see them myself." Louise met with Kobe directly the next day and walked him through every transaction. By the end of that meeting, my son understood exactly what his wife had been doing since roughly the same time she'd started coordinating the clinic's finances. Kobe confronted Melissa that evening. I wasn't there for that conversation, and I won't pretend to know every word that was said. But I know it lasted most of the night, and I know that by morning, Melissa had moved into her sister's apartment. The wellness consulting company was dissolved within the month. Melissa agreed, through lawyers, to repay a portion of the diverted funds over an 18-month period, in exchange for Kobe not pursuing the matter further as outright fraud. The clinic is doing well now, run cleanly, transparently, with Louise quietly overseeing the books until Kobe feels confident handling everything himself. I finally got my proper tour, 3 months late, but Kobe insisted on cutting a small symbolic ribbon just for me, in an empty exam room, with my grandkids there to clap for both of us. "This should have been yours the first time," Kobe said, handing me an oversized pair of ceremonial scissors that were clearly a joke, and also clearly meant with complete sincerity. Kobe and Melissa are separated now, working through a divorce that I suspect will finalize sometime this year. I don't take pleasure in that. I take pleasure in the fact that my son knows the truth now, and that the clinic he worked so hard for is finally standing on honest ground. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real family stories and tell us in the comments, would you have confronted her the moment you noticed something was off?
Glass stained by morning coffee, dashboard hums with distant voices, breath echo, tension in my jaw. Loose bills, keys tangled, side pockets worn thin, phone chirps with questions I might never answer. Sun cuts through tinted regrets, plans rerouted, fingerprints on last night's receipt. Old names flare and brief notification. We trade honesty for comfort, one laugh at a time. Counting all the reasons I keep moving. Borrowed peace burned behind plastic lenses. I frame each mistake with silence. My stride, stubborn glaze with intent. If you see me, let me pass. Truth fried, shotgun and doubt fills the trunk. Every glance a test, I'm just a story behind tinted glass. Rolling out no map, no warning, no warning. New codes, old habits, jacket heavy with memory. She leans in with eyes that see through stunts. We laugh too loud, so her won't catch up. Promises undone by sunrise. Caffeine worship receipts for feeling spent. Empty benches and inside jokes. We keep moving before history gets too close. Eyes closed, engine whispers a dare. Questions line the edge of tomorrow. Heard my own conviction in distant street noise. Sketches, routes the GPS can't find. Let the wheel spell out my secrets. Splinters of truth on passing signs. I'm searching for a reason that feels like skin. If you notice, don't look back. Windows down, new day waiting. Steps echoing fresh concrete. Nothing on, nothing left beyond. Just a distance and the will to begin.